Today, I welcome you all to this edition. If you are new on this channel, I remain the Kenneth Joy. I want to remember to subscribe to my channel, like the video, and also share the video. Today, I want to review another book from my favorite author. And the book I want to review today is The Awesome Power of Instructions. The Awesome Power of Instructions, written by Reverend Chris Christian, the Shepherd of Mankind. Reverend Chris Christian is the General Overseer of Locust Army International Church. He's a preacher of God's Word and he's a prolific writer. He has written 280 books and is still very much active in writing. Reverend Chris Christian is a sacred eunuch. He lives in Lagos, Nigeria. Now, the book, The Awesome Power of Instructions, was published this year, 2022, and it's among the newest books of Reverend Chris Christian. The book is 10 chapters. As usual, I'm going to take it chapter by chapter. So, don't go anywhere. Listen attentively. Chapter 1 of this book is titled The Awesome Power of Instruction. Instructions are tools of life, prosperity, and destiny. God instructs men to be part of them. Instruction has the power of life and death. Instructions have God's secrets. God preserved the lives of his people through instructions. When Adam disobeyed the voice of God, he was disconnected from his life. God believes he is despised when his instructions are ignored. The Edenic garden was very rich and glorious because it was made in the instructions of God. Any life that is not instructed is valueless. There is no limit to the measure of pain and wickedness Satan will inflict on men when lawlessness separates them from God. The worst thing that can happen to any man is to turn blind eye to the instructions of God. Those who walk in obedience to the instructions of God will never be separated from the power and favor of God. We are as powerful as the way we treat the instructions of God. Chapter 2 is titled, God Instructs Those He Loves. Instructing someone is an act of love. The instructions of God sustain his presence around his loved ones. If love motivates God to instruct men, we must not keep instructions away from those we love. The deeper we related with the instructions of God, the closer we are to him. There is no shame in instructions. Those who obey the instructions of God don't struggle in life. Through good relationship with the instructions of God, rulers are raised from dunghill. All who achieved unique purpose on earth related uniquely with the instructions of God. The grace that inspires obedience is what is responsible for the enthronement of men. Because of the limitless favor obedience attracts from God, we must receive new grace to constantly obey the Lord, even when it is painful. Just as God uses the omnipotence of his power to bless faithful and obedient servants, he will also use his divine resources to crush all the rebellious people around him. God prefers obedience to any form of sacrifice. Now, chapter 3 is titled, Instructions Have the Power of Life and Death. God shields men from death and destruction by instructing them. The dead were either not instructed or they ignored the instructions that would have rescued them from death. We must allow God to instruct us. The way we relate with God's instructions reveals our value to him. Obeying the instructions of God is choosing God and rejecting the devil. Instructions are not only revelational, they are powerful. Sometimes we have to make sacrifices to hear the instructions of God. Instruction is a stronghold where all who accomplish great feats on earth hide themselves. It is painful to disobey the instructions of God, but it is more painful to live without being instructed. God instructs different men in different ways for different reasons. Disobedience to the instructions of God makes destroyers. Disobedience is more dangerous than witchcraft. Any path that is not made in instruction will never lead to any important place. The path of life and immortality is made in instructions. Chapter 4 is titled, Instructions are Revelational. The revelational insight Peter had about Jesus attracted the truth of Jesus to him. Strength to obey the instructions of God stems from revelational knowledge. God doesn't separate the lives and destinies of men from all that they know about him. What we know about God and Jesus Christ will always control how we relate with them. Those who don't have the light of God will always find it difficult to obey the instructions of God. Obedience to the instructions of God starts with intimate relationship with the revelation of God. God doesn't give instruction to those who don't have his light. If a man finds it difficult to obey the instructions of God, it is because he has no light in him. Jesus Christ committed the life of the church into the hand of Peter because of his revelational light. We are as useful as our enlightenment. The measure of our brightness determines our usefulness and how we related with God's instructions. Chapter 5 is titled, God instructs men to be part of them. God instructs men to be part of them. When God gives men instruction, he stays with them. God makes men valuable through instructions, and it is through instruction that men win the battles of their lives. God instructs men to crown them. There is no real life outside instructions. Satan takes people's lives when he convinces them to ignore the instructions of God. All instructed paths are enlightened paths. Instructed paths preserve all who tread on them. It is not possible for those who tarry patiently in instructed paths to be separated from the honor of God. Corruption is unavoidable when men avoid instructions of God. They unconsciously become servants of the devil. Obeying the instructions of God is hiding ourselves underneath the strong arm of God. Now, chapter 6 is titled, Instructions are Vision Based. Instructions are vision based, which is why they are unique and rational. God leans on the strength of instructions to accomplish vision. Vision can't be fulfilled with instructions. Accomplishing the messianism of the suffering servant was possible for Jesus because he obeyed the instructions of the visionary Christ. When men disobey the instruction that sustain vision in their lives, they wander out of the path of God. Any choice we make against the instruction of God is an intentional choice we make against God. What we want to do for God is not as important as the way we relate with his instructions. Satan devalues the lives of men by encouraging them to ignore the instructions of God. Any life that is not made subject to the instructions of vision is valueless. Joseph followed the path of vision to become the prime minister in Egypt. Where there is no instructions, visions are thwarted. Chapter 7 is titled, Enjoying the Awesome Help of Angels in Instructed Paths. The instructions of God command angelic activities on earth. The worst thing that can happen to anyone is to be in the world full of demons without angelic help. Angels are always around to help those who are worthy of their help. When we obey the instructions of God, he sends angels to be part of our service to him. It is wrong for disobedient people to expect help from angels. Abandoning instructions is as evil as not being instructed. Angels have the support of God to do extraordinary feats. Keeping company with angels make believers very powerful. More than any other time in the history of man, angelic services are very prominent in this millennium. Michael and all the powerful angels of God will accomplish mighty purpose at this time when the kingdom of this world is becoming the kingdom of God and his Christ. It is a great privilege for us to be part of what God is doing in this end time. Now, chapter 8 is titled, The Danger of Disobedience and the Reward of Obedience. God hates to be disobeyed. The reason God doesn't tolerate disobedience is because it strengthens Satan to oppose his purpose. Those who disobey God mocks his sovereign power. All great evils are established all great evils that establish the will of Satan on earth follow the path of disobedience. Chosen men whose lives are inspired by vision never find it difficult to obey God. We must avoid disobedience because of its danger and embrace obedience for its reward. Disobeying God is hating our lives. The mercy and preservation of God is withdrawn from all who disobeyed him. Evil will always reign where disobedience strives. Disobedience is aftermath of spiritual blindness and ignorance. There is no relationship between the light of God and the spirit of rebellion. All who didn't walk in the visionary path of instructions lost their lives and destinies. Chapter 9 is titled, Instructions Make Demand on the Will of Man. Now, it takes strong will for the instructions of God to be obeyed continuously. God's will must be turned into the will of man if it must be done on earth. If we must accomplish the will of God on earth, we must shun distractions. Obeying the instructions of God will not be difficult. if we submit ourselves totally to the vision of God. God needs your support to improve your life. It is the values we present to God that He must depend on to improve our lives. Vision must produce the strong will that is designed to empower us to obey the instructions of God. We might find it difficult to know what to mind if we don't willingly separate ourselves from things we must not mind. God doesn't oppose the will of men. After all, He depends on the will of men to accomplish His own will. Where there is will, there will be always a way. Finally, chapter 10 is titled Building Your Life and Destiny in the Instructions of God. God instructs men to the path of death. Through instructions, God builds the lives and destinies of men. All great lives have chief instructors. The chief instructor of every man is the one in charge of the man's destiny. While Jesus was on earth, the visionary Christ was his chief instructor. It is only those who made Jesus Christ their chief instructor that share destiny with him. Instructions are the fortress of all who are instructed. God produces the best of men through instructions. The resources we invest in training a child is part of the honor and glory of the child. God will never invest his resources in valueless people. Anyone who walks out of the way of instructions is doomed. It is through instructions that the shepherd of Israel leads his sheep to the pasture of surplus and abundance. This book is a must read. You need to get a copy for yourself and make it a must read. And for you to get a copy, you need to visit Shekinah Bookshop at Locust Army International Headquarters Church, located at Locust Army Bus Stop at the road Aja, Lagos, Nigeria. Or you can call these phone numbers 080-381-38751 or 080-3377-8843 to get a copy. You can also visit www.shekinahmediahouse.com to get the soft copy. You can listen to the Reverend Chris Christian live every Tuesday, Fridays, and Sundays by 12 noon through his YouTube channel as Reverend Chris Christian. Thank you so much for being part of this edition. Remember to subscribe to my channel, like the video, and also share the video. And don't forget to drop your comments in the comment box. See you again in my next edition. Bye.